Well, during this primary election season, economic development issues were front and center in a number of Indiana communities. And for a look at how elections can really impact economic development and vice versa, let's turn now to national site selection firm KSM Location Advisor, CEO Tim Cook, and President Katie Culp. And welcome back, as always.
Thanks,
hello, Gary.
The primary political season is behind us now, but as you just mentioned, certainly economic development issues, jobs issues can play a real role. And I look at Hamilton County, and there's so much growth, so much activity going on there, whether it's Fishers, Carmel, or Westfield. Let's talk a little bit, Tim. First of all, in Fishers, Mayor Fadness has had a very aggressive agenda.
Yeah, I mean, once he became mayor, it became all about development. He's done a lot downtown and really throughout the city. That was a focal point of that election, and he won handily in the primary, over 60%. So even though there are people that were opposed to that speed of growth and where the growth has happened, he won pretty resoundingly. And
victories, the incumbents in both Carmel, where there's been a tremendous, certainly amount of development, and Mayor Andy Cook in Westfield with Grand Park, which was a very ambitious project that's very high profile.
Yeah, and in that case, he was unopposed. So if you look at all three of those communities, they have all been very economic development-minded mayors, and they all won re-election at the primary level.
Yeah, I know there's a bit of a difference here. Tim, you think that's a validation of those policies and that pro-growth agenda. Katie, you look a little deeper at some of the results, maybe not at the top, but in some of the council races is maybe not quite matching up with that.
Yeah, we're a risk-averse people, we Hoosiers, and I think you've got some really strong, powerful executives who garnered the support of many. But if you look at the council, there was turnover in some of the seats, and some of them were surprises. And I think development was a critical issue in some of those elections, and I think what that reflects is sort of growing concern, just not elevated to the level of really wanting to make a huge change at the executive office. So I think it speaks to some of the undercurrents in some of these communities.
Can that dynamic, if the change at the council level, impact the agenda going forward? If you've got, some differing opinions on the council, could that have an impact going forward?
Definitely. I mean, any new administration, it always takes a while for everybody to understand and get up and running. But when you look at the primary economic development tools at the local level, TIF, tax abatement, all of that has to go through the legislative body. And if there are members on the council now who are philosophically opposed to some of that, or maybe just uncertain, not only may it impact the outcome, but it will certainly elongate the process.
You're past the election. As you look at how the results impact economic development going forward, things like here in Indianapolis with Mayor Hogsett and his views on TIF and those types of things.
Yeah, so when Mayor Hogsett was elected, they really restructured how they did TIF deals, where they required the developers to back those bonds. That was a significant change in policy. I think the mayor would tell you, and it's what Katie and I have seen, it really has not slowed the impact and the speed of projects in downtown Indianapolis. But that's the type of thing that you see policy-wise when you have a new mayor come in place.
And it seems that the party affiliation maybe doesn't necessarily have a tremendous amount to do with it. You have a Republican in the governor's office and a number of mayors and other economic developers on the Republican side, but there's not really that. There's some disagreement sometimes, even inter-party.
Well, I think if you look at just statewide this year, obviously we've got a Republican governor, we've got Republican legislature. Yet there were times they disagreed on either what the issue of the day should be or how fast some of those proposals got passed.
Yeah. Let's talk about moving to the fall and the general election. Do you see some big issues on the horizon? I know in Zionsville there's a project, Sycamore Flats, I think it's been very high profile and perhaps a bit controversial. How do you see that going forward?
Yeah, well, the Zionsville, that particular project had over 3,000 signatures in opposition to it. It was an issue leading up to the primary. I think it's going to be a key issue as you look at the general election in November.
And Katie, as you go statewide, you look at a place like Fort Wayne, where there has been major change downtown. Fort Wayne doesn't look like the same city. A lot of big projects. So that's been a pretty aggressive growth agenda there as well.
Yeah, they have a number of at-large council seats, and it was really up for grabs even in the primary. I think the general is going to determine a lot. And again, I think the speed of development, land use issues, a lot of these things are the underpinnings of these elections.
Before we leave, I want to get your opinion on the big Cummins announcement late in the week. Major investment in Columbus, in Greenwood, in Indianapolis. The Greenwood investment is for an IT hub, $35 million investment, 500 jobs, some of them consolidation, but a big win for Greenwood.
An exciting one for them. I think Mayor Myers feels validated. He's invested a lot of money into downtown. They have wanted to get away from just doing some of the more big box type of stuff. Cummins and that type of use is a big home run for them.
Yeah, the Cummins beginning its second 100 years in business with a big splash. Tim Cook and Katie Culp, as always, thanks for some great perspective, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Gary.
See you soon.